Hi everyone, hope everyone is well. This evening I am playing Vauchamps 1814. He says that with great confidence that was a good pronunciation. Probably not, so I apologise in advance for any bad pronunciations on my part, which I'm sure there will be plenty. I am playing the historical scenario, 14th of February 1814. I've featured this game on my channel a couple of times. I actually reviewed it a few years ago, and I've done a couple of videos on some of the battles and things like that. But I've never done a video on this particular scenario, so I thought I would sort that out. I am using the most up-to-date rules of play that I have, which is the 2021, which is a very good rule set. There may be a more recent one because there's a couple of new releases or reprints that may have a more even up-to-date version of the rule set, but I don't have them, not yet anyway. So I'm going to use that one, which I'm very happy with, by the way. I've got the game set up on one of my tables in here that's currently empty. I'll probably play the game over a few evenings. I'm going to take my time. I've got a few other things on as well, so probably a couple of evenings I think I'll play of this particular scenario. I think you could probably play it from looking at my notes in a long evening if you wanted to, but I'm going to take my time, no rush. So we'll have a look at the game, which I've got set up, and talk about some special rules, have a look at the map, etc, etc. So let's do that. Got the game set up. As you can see, there's not a huge number of units on the map to begin with, but there are a significant number of units that will enter the map as reinforcements. Just to give an overview, we've got the French, who are in these hexes here, and we've got the coalition here and there. In the first turn, the French have some reinforcements, including Napoleon, who enters the board on here, and the coalition enter way over there. In terms of their objectives, there are victory points for the key objective here, which is currently being defended by the coalition, and for the French, just checking the rules for the French, I put that little marker there just to remind me. The French actually have an objective, some victory points potential there, which is possible. And in addition, the coalition only get victory points for controlling this. The coalition also get victory points for a couple of formations not being demoralised at the end of the game. So basically what the French have got to do is stop the coalition from gaining the victory points for that, and try and take this here. So they've got a lot of work to do, as you can see. But it's a 7-turn game, and the French do have significant reinforcements, I would say. The coalition have some reinforcements as well. There are some special rules. Let me just check them. Probably the key one, I would say, is that combat that involves charging, so we're talking about horse, do receive a -1 penalty to the die roll. This is due to the difficult terrain hindering charges during the day. So I've got to try and remember that. That's probably the main things I would say. What I'll do is, as I bring the formations on and start doing movement, I'll probably zoom the camera in so you get a better sense of the battle. But it's not a large map, as you can see. That's sort of normal for this game series. But there's still a lot of opportunity for movement. There's a lot of opportunity for tactics. It is a chit pull game. So I've got the chits here. So these are the French ones. These are the coalition. And more get added to the cup as we play through and so forth. That means it solos very nicely. So no more further ado. What I will do is, as I play through each turn, I'll give a summary of the events and the narrative that's taking part in the battle at the end of each turn. Probably, might talk about some of the mechanics as I'm playing through as well. And like I also said, I probably will place over a few evenings. No need to rush. You could, looking at the number of turns, looking at the reinforcements, I think you could place in a long evening comfortably. But a couple of evenings for myself. So no further ado, I will start with turn number 1. So now you can see there are more units now on the battlefield. The French have been able to move up this road here and move their artillery into position here to be able to give fire into the to these hexes here. There's already been, the coalition have tried to stop them with some artillery fire, but to no effect. And Napoleon himself is moving down that road there to be able to give orders to his formations. The French also have started to move their horse with some artillery down along this road. The idea being, the French idea being that they can attack from the south, from this, well, it's a trail actually, rather than the road, and on this road here. Now the coalition, their plan is a little different. They are moving this formation to here, just to hold this area here, which they, from this position, they'll be able to reinforce if they are required to do so, or attack moving down to the south into the French lines. They've also started to move this formation up across along this long road here to help again reinforce, or to, if this was to be lost, try and take it back from the French. And they've moved in this formation along this trail path here onto this area, this hex here. So a few more formations, a few more counters in the game. Now the next, so that's a 9 o'clock turn. The 10 o'clock turn, again quite significant reinforcements, actually for both sides, and Blucher himself. Now by the rules, in that first turn, there is no Blucher's not on the battlefield, but you are unable to give one formation as if it was in orders, which I gave to this formation to move them up to here. So yes, that's the plan for both sides. French taking this area and then move along the road with these, and then also moving along the south part here. I'm not sure. I'll make a decision when the French come onto the board with their reinforcements, whether it's worth them trying this north route as well, or whether just to stick with the central route, we'll call it, and the southern route. We'll see. I'll give that some thought as I, start to play the next turn. But already quite a few options. There were lots of different choices I had to make with these reinforcements, where they should go. I could have just really concentrated on the road, but as much as anything, I thought that would probably lead to not terribly exciting game from a narrative point of view, which is why I play these games solo. So time will tell if that was a good decision or not. Now at the end of turn number 2, again, as you can see, a lot more formations, a lot more units on the map. So to go from the French perspective first, points of interest, French were able to engage the coalition in this objective hex here. I mean, it's not an objective for the French in terms of victory points, but it is for the coalition, so the French want to deny them that. And they were able to push the coalition out and trap a couple of casualties involved, and really fierce fighting here, which was, but it ultimately led to the French, and predominantly because the French have got some very good artillery units here, much better than the coalition artillery units. Conversely, on this sort of southeast side, there's been fierce fighting between this formation, this French formation here. The French boldly charging, but they were able to, their targets, infantry, foot and artillery, were able to form a square. The charging horse would try to be recalled and halt that charge, but it failed, and the result bounced off the square quite violently. So that's halted their attack here. And French are moving now, and these are very powerful units here. This formation are moving from and ahh'd about what I should do with them. And I felt one option from a narrative of the battle point of view, which would be quite interesting, would be to see if they can move along the south on these trails here and across country, and see if they can move round to that French objective right over there. It's going to take them quite some time. I haven't worked out if that can be done or not. That's not the way I play games solo, but I just thought it'd be interesting. The obvious thing is to barrel them through the centre along this road here. And I'm pretty sure, looking at my notes, that's how I played it last time. So I thought I'd try something different. Time will tell if that's a good idea or not. But on this side, the French are moving these two formations here, ready to contend with this formation here, the coalition. So there's quite a few. What I like about this particular scenario, actually what I like about the game series as a whole, but this really does illustrate this. There's pockets of narrative, pockets of action taking place, and pockets of decision making for both sides. And we've got this area here, the actual area here, this one here, and then moving these up. These coalition forces are also moving along this trail here, and it's a very small formation, but formation nonetheless moving along the trail here. So quite a few different moving elements. I mean, literally, but also in terms of your decision making, which I'm really enjoying. So that was a really good turn, absolutely excellent from a gameplay point of view, and the decisions involved. Now turn number 3, which would be the 11 o'clock turn. He says confidently, there are more reinforcements, but again, particularly for the French, coalition get a couple more activation pull chip pulls, which will help them. But some more French coming on the board, and 0801, which is just here, I'm pretty sure, just off camera. So yeah, a really involving turn, and that turn did take a bit longer to play. I can imagine from now we're starting to get all the units onto the board. It's going to take, each turn is going to take significantly longer, and also a lot more decisions to make, a lot more thinking and reflecting on how I would like this battle to play out from both sides. That's a really excellent turn. I'm really enjoying this game already, which is brilliant. So yeah, turn number 3 next. Difficult to say at the minute how I think this will end up. Very difficult. I think both sides have a lot of opportunities. I think the coalition can stop the French. I think the French have a lot of options open to them. I think, what to do with these units here is quite Ney's units here is quite pivotal. And I'm denied whether I should, go for the obvious tactic or try something different. And it's one of the great things about playing these games solo. You can try things. It's one of the things I love about this hobby. It's not always a right way and a wrong way sometimes. Have fun and be experimental and try out different tactics and different techniques and see where that lands. So yeah, turn number 3 next. At the end of turn 3, the tide has changed quite significantly. The French were doing very well in turn 2. However, in turn 3, the coalition have been able to push them back out of the coalition's objective hexes, which are these here, Vauchamps itself. They're able to repel all the French attacks and push them back out. Plus, they have firmed up on this side of the objectives with these artillery units. Is horse under here, and foot and artillery here, and moving these artillery. And I think that's I can't remember if that's foot or horse underneath those. I think it's horse. Yes, it is underneath those as well. So they firmed up very well on this defensive line. The French have tried several times to take this back, but unsuccessful and been pushed back. These units here, these units here, this unit here. French, however, have moved up these really good units here from Ney, and they have changed their plan a little bit. They are instead, I think, going to be needed to try and take this objective here. But the French do have good lines here on this side of the board with artillery and horse. These are just artillery, which can be quite vulnerable, but especially with these coalition, very tempting targets for this coalition horse units here, if they can sort themselves out. But the French also do have some reinforcements, and these are good units here. So these units here are going to try and engage the coalition units and try and take back Vauchamps. See how that pans out for them. So yeah, quite an engaging turn. Took quite a while to play. Even though there doesn't look like that many counters or units on the board, there are a lot of chits in the Chip Pull Cup now. So most of these formations are getting 2 activations, depending on if they have orders or not, depends on what they can do. But I just take a little time to get through. I think it's probably taken me an hour to do that turn, for example. But very engaging and lots of options for both sides still, I feel. Although I can see at some point, maybe the next turn, it's going to come with a bit of a standoff on this line here for the coalition, and the French trying to push through and break through that line so they can make good on the rest of the map. We'll see. Now that was a super dramatic and very eventful turn, and there's quite a lot to talk about. But before I do that, I'll just describe where we're at currently. The French have completely smashed the coalition. They have been able to take back the hexes here. They have pretty much smashed the coalition on the north side of those hexes there. So we're talking about these units here, for example. And they have pretty much smashed everything on the south side as well. Now, how were they able to do that? At one point, there was just even a lot of the coalition units and the French units facing off against each other. But the French units in particular, obviously Ney's units here, they're just unstoppable with their stats, to be honest with you. And there's nothing the coalition really can do unless they get some good dice rolls with the artillery, which they didn't. The other units to probably call out, these artillery units here, because we've got 2 artillery units in a hex and a stack, then they get a bonus for doing so, and they were just every single time the French used them, they just got really good dice rolls and just blew the living daylights, I suppose, out of the enemy is the way to describe it. And that opened the door, and then of course the French horse just went through that door, and they've got some good units here. They've got some good unit there, for example. It's not the only one, and that just very fierce fighting between the two sides. Coalition not giving it up easy, but ultimately the French have completely smashed their way through. They did get quite a bit of resistance. If I look at the number of casualties to the coalition, it's considerable compared to the French. And I think where we are currently, I feel like that probably we can call the game there as a victory to the French. Now, technically, there's victory points over there to the French, and I could play out the narrative of the coalition trying to draw back and secure that place, and the French hounding them all the way. But I don't really feel the need to do that, and the coalition just haven't got quite enough of an advantage to do so. I think I'd be playing a couple of turns just hounding the coalition and then finishing them off. And I don't really see the need to do that playing the game solo. Certainly, that was from a narrative point of view of the battle playing out. Just all this combat on this side. There were units forming squares, being smashed by artillery, units routing, etc., etc. So, from a gameplay point of view, from an enjoyable wargaming evening point of view, definitely delivered on that. On a side note, as we talk about the two sides, one of the pieces of feedback I had on one of the previous videos from the series that it's quite difficult to tell the difference between the French units, which are, for example, these units here. That's a French unit, and the coalition units, which are these ones here. To be truthful, for anyone who's watching who's interested, part of the reason that is because I'm using quite a big boom light to light the map, because I find that's the best way to record videos. But in doing so, it does wash the colours out a bit. If I look at the camera compared to what I'm seeing in front of me, colours are washed out a little bit. But to be truthful, also, there isn't actually that much difference between them. So I can see why people are like, I can't quite tell the difference. So, for example, French unit, coalition unit, very, very similar on camera. But one of the things that helps for that in the game is that your orientation within the hex. So the counters are literally facing against each other. The only time it gets a little tricky, for example, down here, that's a French unit because it defeated the unit there, attacked it from behind, and these are coalition units here. So the French unit is facing towards the French side, as it were. But generally speaking, it's not quite as, to be honest, it's more readable in person than it maybe is on the camera. But they are quite similar. I will also be honest, I have completely activated if there are two nations in the coalition, which there are in here, I have accidentally, using the chit pull system, activated the wrong coalition, because the coalition colours to me are quite similar as well. So it is something to bear in mind. But again, to be truthful, I think I've said many times in my videos, I do have to wear glasses when playing war games. And I don't struggle at all with identifying the counters, but I can see on the camera on the video you probably think it's more amplified. But I would also say, in all honesty, yeah, they're not actually in some ways that much different anyway. But it doesn't detract from the enjoyment of the game. Certainly from my point of view, that was a very enjoyable evening of playing the game. It led to a lot of drama, a lot of dice rolling. I mean, it's not, I shouldn't say that really, it's not really a dice chucky game. You're only rolling one dice at a time, but I was activating lots of units and rolling dice for them is what I meant. And the combat, I felt once or twice could have gone either way. I would say the French have got some very good units. The coalition have, but I couldn't, as the coalition player, I couldn't bring them into play as much as I could the French. And the French are more, for me, in that game, more straightforward to play than the coalition. But a really enjoyable game. I do love this game, this series of games. I've featured them quite a lot on my channel, so please check out the other videos on this series of games. And I did a review some years ago of this particular game package that you can get. It is out of print, so you're going to have to hunt around and see if you can pick one up used or new, but you know, from a collector, etc. But highly recommend it if you do. But there are other games that are in print, and there are other ways to get some of the more recently printed games. So either directly from the publisher, and I think in North America, I think GMT stock them. If you're interested in Napoleonic wargaming, I highly recommend it. It's quite a good place to start if you like the medium plus complexity, I would say, is how I think about it. I don't think it's, because it's a small map, people think it's a simple game in terms of its level of complexity weight, and I don't agree with that. I think it is, for me, it's medium plus. But I really enjoy it, and always have done. Fell in love with the game the very first time I played it, and have loved every game session since. So thank you a lot for watching. If you've played this battle, really interested how your battle unfolded, because I haven't played, this is the first time I've played it in quite a while, so always interested to see how your session went, of course. And it probably went quite differently than mine, and you probably did a much better job than I have. So please feel free to leave a comment on your session as well, or indeed any thoughts about the game series in general. I'm always looking for Napoleonic game recommendations, so based on my channel you can see the things I play. If you've got any recommendations for any games I should have a look at, please feel free, fill your boots and put something in the comments. Always looking for those as well. But thanks a lot for watching as always, and take care. Thank you.